Transylvania, the Middle Ages. An evil darkness had befallen the land, giving rise to sinister vampire legends. Until now, the people of Transylvania had grown accustomed to their peaceful existence, secure in the knowledge that their famed hero, Simon Belmont, had sealed the fate of Count Dracula several hundred years prior. Wicked townsfolk possessed by the darkness conspired to revive the King of Blood. Dracula, now undead once more, plotted to exact revenge upon the descendant of the family that destroyed him, Richter Belmont. The Prince of Evil viciously attacked the town with his unholy legion. He snatched away Richter's girlfriend, Annette, and her sister, Maria. Imprisoning them in his vile castle, he lies in wait for Richter to attempt a rescue. Richter, burdened by his destiny, left for Dracula's castle with his legendary ancestral whip, the determination to save his loved ones, and the resolve to send Dracula to eternal damnation once and for all. Somehow not the most flashy intro a Castlevania game has, not by a long shot. Hello everyone and welcome to Let's Play Castlevania Dracula X for the Super Nintendo, a port of sorts in name only in a lot of ways of Castlevania Rondo of Blood for the PC Engine / TurboGrafx. So let's not mess around and get right on in. Now, despite the fact this is a port of Rondo of Blood, the stages are all completely unique in layout. In fact, I'd say only stage 1 really bears a passing resemblance to any of the stages from Rondo of Blood, and it's the exact same stage number. No, actually, no. That's technically... No, that's stage 1. The intro cutscene is stage 0, isn't it? And in it, we have the premiere, on the channel at least, of a particular Castlevania song, Divine Bloodlines. This might be my favorite of the first level themes for Castlevania, so to speak, out of the classic Vanias at least. Because Simon's theme's great, but I feel it has a bit too slow of a beginning. Vampire Killer's great, but it's a little bit overplayed. Bloody Tears kind of just got thrown away into endless remix territory for a while, and while they're all great, I feel they lost some of the tone because of it. Beginning's probably my favorite otherwise, honestly, as I've grown older. Now, despite being released after Castlevania 4 from memory, Richter in this game, I know I called him Richter in the intro, it was just for dramatic sake. It's Richter Belmont to me. We're back to Castlevania 1 through 3 controls for this game. When you make a jump, you are committed to it. You cannot control yourself in midair whatsoever. With that said, because of that, we also can't whip our whip in 8 directions as well, and because of that, sub-weapons are now matched to up and B again instead of being the R button, I believe, in Castlevania 4? With that said, Richter does have some new tricks up his sleeve for a Belmont with the classic strut. He can do a backflip by double tapping the jump button within a particular rhythm. That's used to get away from particular attacks relatively quickly. With that said, if you know the attack patterns or you're good at watching out for enemies, it's only really going to come in handy in certain platforming sections, I'd feel, and it can be really good for getting yourself some extra vertical or horizontal distance, platforming-wise. As well, Richter can jump onto and off of stairs. Doesn't matter too much in this game's level design, but oh well. With that said, the sub-weapon fare is by and large the same thing. There's one other mechanic that Richter can do as well, which is related to the heart count, but we're not going to see that until the boss fight. In particular, we got kind of just the usual first level stuff here. We got the zombies, we got a behemoth, which is trying to chase us down and try to jump you into bottomless pits, but you can easily just kind of jump around it. Also, points to this game over Rondo of Blood, for one thing, I think its pre-boss fight theme, whenever it seldom happens, is better, because the TurboGrafx soundtrack for right before boss fight is ear-grating. Boss for this is, I think this is meant to be Cerberus, yeah, for some reason it has like a Jaguar sound. It jumps, and it fires fireballs, but we can completely destroy it with our new attack, the Item Crash. If you have over a certain amount of hearts relative to certain sub-weapons, you can then press the X button to get a super attack relative to whatever that sub-weapon did. As you can see, they're very good for boss fights. Some of them are more useful than others, yes, but I feel they're all worth it in some regard. I feel it's a really welcome addition to the franchise, honestly, because it makes actively saving your hearts feel like it's worthwhile in a lot of regards. At the end of every stage, you get the usual score tally, but you also get a window in the set of 9 windows in the background, rather. Those are your password for that stage and however you've played it. And with that, moving on to stage 2, home of Vampire Killer. And not for nothing, I love this version of the song. With that said, the soundtrack is probably not the weakest part of this game. It's probably the strongest part of this game in particular. But it is a bit of a sour note compared to Rondo of Blood. Rondo of Blood notably used the PC Engine CD add-on for the TurboGrafx CD in Japan. And because of that, it had full CD quality music, and while yeah, that led to there being points where the music kind of had to fade to loop again, it was incredible sounding stuff. I love Rondo of Blood's soundtrack. And Dracula X's / Vampire's Kiss, I believe if you're in Europe, by the way, is good, but it's just not as good. Yeah, I should probably note that, like Castlevania Bloodlines, this game did have different names in different regions, as did the entire franchise, notably, but this one was especially stupid in Japan. This was known as Dracula XX, and I just find that silly. If I were to compare difficulty-wise Dracula X to most of the other Castlevania games we played on the channel, particularly Castlevania 3's difficulty curve or Castlevania 1's, I'd say it's probably one of the easier classic Vanias when you're just going for the straight platforming ones. Just because, admittedly, even though it's not too much, even with the weird stage designs this game's going to have moving forward, Richter's extra abilities really do help with survivability in the long run. And I feel the game is really good about giving you a lot of hearts to use, too. With that said, it also depends on what you're trying to do in the game, I feel, because this game, like its PC Engine counterpart, has a bit of different ways things can play out depending on how you progress through certain stages. More on that, I believe, next part in particular. Oh, hey, Spear Knights. Learn to hate these guys. They are everywhere in this game. I think they're the most common enemy type, barring bats. And what's really annoying about them, A, when they're about to prep for a large swing, their range is a lot more than you would think. It's like 2 to 3 body lengths in front of them. But they can also twirl their spears to guard, and that can be surprisingly hard to get around. Additionally, they can also attack above or below them, so you're never really safe from them no matter where they are. Plus, in a couple of cases, I believe, unless I'm just thinking of Symphony of the Night, they're placed on stairs, and that's just annoying. Ow, see what I mean about attack range? That was a lot more than their looks would imply. Now, as for how I got introduced to Dracula X in particular, I think I played this after Rondo, which I first played Rondo on Wii Virtual Console, so this was maybe 2009 through 10, somewhere in that range. I recalled seeing someone on YouTube talk about the Super Nintendo port being radically different, and I just needed to check it out from there, if I recall correctly. Because Rondo Blood, this was all we got for it back when, because I don't think the PC Engine CD was released in the States. Or it wasn't. If it wasn't, it didn't get Castlevania. Either way, now we're on to the boss of stage 2, the Giant Bat. Ah, good to see it. It splits into tiny bats and will move across the screen in several patterns and reform and be a big bat again and try to move into you. It's notably one of the only bosses that has an outright reaction to getting hit by your attacks, which is what the splitting is. But as you can see, it's very easy to get into a little bit of a lock. One thing I should note as well, it becomes more apparent as we go through the game. This game also brings in something from Rondo of Blood, in that bosses tend to have a little bit of a desperation attack, like so. That, at least in Rondo of Blood, can't kill you. It's more or less just to take away some life bonus, I believe. But I do believe... I'm not sure if it can kill you in this game, because I'm seldom in a case where I feel like it can. And now we're moving on to stage 3. This is where things can get a little bit interesting, depending on how you progress through it. But more on that again next part, but we do get bloody tears, and... damn, is this kind of a weak version of the song. It's a shame, because we know the Super Nintendo's instruments could do better. I feel like it's because they were especially trying to see how they could best translate the Rondo versions and instruments of some of the songs into the Super Nintendo sound instrument sets they were using. I don't think they did too well. Mind you, I guess every console's got to have that one Castlevania game that has Castlevania games that's just kind of weak compared to the other ones. For instance, Harmony of Dissonance on GBA. What was the weak one? What was the weak one of the batch on DS? I guess it was technically Dawn of Sorrow. For the NES, it was Castlevania 2. All that kind of stuff. Castlevania The Adventure for Game Boy especially. But admittedly, this is better than most of those. And that's what I mean about the Spear Knights being able to attack above and below you. They are a constant threat whenever they're on screen. Mind you, if they had to spam an enemy in this game, I'm grateful it was the one that was slow-moving and couldn't be on stairs, except in certain instances. Because if it was Medusa heads, I'd be upset. Now, something I do find kind of funny about this game is its manual. They have the usual character bios, which we'll go over in a minute, but every little bit of character art they use in the manual is from Rondo of Blood. And not just like its manual. There's some like cutscene art from the game in there even, and it's just, oh boy, it doesn't match the art style they do for this game's cutscenes whenever there is one at all. By the way, let's go over what the characters are in this game. We got Richter Belmont, who's, as the intro stated, Simon's descendant. Namely, I think grandson is what he's meant to be. This is meant to be the 100 years or so after the Simon arcs. And he's a renowned vampire exterminator. He's 19 years old, has a strong sense of justice and an unwavering will. He's only 19 and he's that ripped? Goddamn, the Belmonts are built different. Annette is Richter's girlfriend, who she is 17. She was kidnapped by Dracula and is imprisoned somewhere in his castle. Maria is her younger sister, was kidnapped alongside her, and is imprisoned somewhere within Dracula's castle. I'm getting that this game didn't get the best writing. Dracula is the proprietor of the evil castle. Not the way I would describe that. Lord's probably the word I would use. And the origin of all wickedness in the world? X'd out on that. Believed to be about 800 years old, cruel and heartless, he is at the same time possesses refinement and a grace that would only be expected of nobility. What the absolute hell? Okay. Like Castlevania games before this, by the way, you do have the occasional hidden one-up or wild chicken. I don't know where a lot of them are, because I never know where a lot of them are. I usually know where 1 or 2 per game are, because I'm not whipping every single bit of the level design. I got stuff to do. Not for nothing, though. One thing I am impressed with, again, with this game, they did a really good job on the sprite work, I feel. Like, they did a good job of bringing over the Rondo of Blood sprites. Now, you want to be very careful in this room. You see, if you fall down, you're taken down to a different stage design and a different boss that sends you to an alternate stage 4. Whereas, in order to get the best ending in the game, because this game has multiple endings like the Metroidvania games would in some extenses moving forward, we want to get to the end of this level design without falling down. There was a stage that did this as well in Rondo of Blood, but not only was that stage a little bit nicer with how the platforms were laid out, it was also a lot kinder with how the enemies were placed. Also, you can stand on skeleton towers. No, I don't think you could do that in the earlier games. If you could, I feel like the only game that you could do that in was probably Castlevania 4. But I doubt that's what they did. Now, you want to keep your eyes out coming up here, because in this next candle or 3, I believe, we got a key. This key is a very special sub-weapon. It costs no heart to use, doesn't have an item crash or anything. But in order to get the best ending in the game, we need it. So hold on to it, don't grab any other sub-weapons. For now, it's time for our next boss fight. I believe this is meant to be the Dullahan? It's got a giant spear, and it's very stabby. Its attack range is a lot more than you'd expect. You can do a jump attack, you can do a little shockwave attack of ice along the ground and cause ice to be rained from the ceiling as well, I believe, occasionally. The biggest thing you want to be with this is patient so that you're not being too close to it. Thankfully, this game doesn't have the little timer clock that the other classic Vanias have at this point, so you don't have to worry about getting a timeout death in this. You can just progress through and you're completely fine. Oh yeah, it can also throw its head in the air and that causes an earthquake and stuff to fall for some reason. Don't get why. But that's stage 3. The boss can be a little bit annoying and very damaging. That's another thing. That guy really hurts. But as long as you're keeping your eye on your health and being careful, you probably will get through it eventually, and hopefully with the key. But with that, I'm going to need to end this off here. Thank you guys for watching, and in part 2, we're moving on into stage 4 and stage 4. And maybe stage 5 and stage 5, I forget. See you guys then.